ourselves started this morning, or this afternoon. So for those of you who don't know, my name is Pam, and my puppies tend to join us while we do yoga. If you don't have blocks, so I would recommend having blocks handy. If you don't have blocks, you can use a big bottle of vinegar, or if I forget my blocks in class, I usually just use my water bottle as a prop. So as long as it's not going to wobble or fall over, you're okay. You're going to want to have a blanket or so around if you can, especially if you don't have a bolster or a Zafu cushion. It might be nice to just have some of these things handy just in case. And if you don't have a yoga belt, you can always use an old tie or a Dynaband. Okay, so we'll get started. If you have any questions, you can type in the chat, and I'll try to address them before we leave today. I would recommend we start lying down. So you're going to lie on your back. Again, comfortably. I find if I have a prop under my head, I'm not as comfortable, but some people don't find it comfortable to lie flat without something under their head. So if you have a blanket, you can place it under your head. Let your palms be face up, shoulders comfortably open, resting, arms away from you. If your back is fine, you can actually stretch your legs out about mat width apart or even wider if that's comfortable for you. Just be really comfy in Shavasana or corpse pose, our beginning pose. And then you can also, if the back is tired or sore, or just to give it more support, that's where the cushion, the Zafu, or the bolster can come in handy. Even blocks under the legs, or you can just let your knees rest together. Okay. So just find a really comfy position on the mat. If you don't want to lie down, you can always sit with me. Session. And if you're sitting, just sitting up nice and tall, perhaps on a Zafu cushion or some blankets, or even a block. Whatever position you're in, you're going to take a few moments just to settle into your mat. To notice without judgment how you're feeling in this moment. To notice what is going on with your breath, again, without judgment. Maybe you rushed to class today. Maybe you've already been able to invite a deeper breath. Filling your nostrils with fresh oxygen and allowing your belly to expand as you breathe in. And fall back as you breathe out. Try to just again bring awareness without judgment to see if you're holding anywhere. Can you release any tension you might be feeling in your jaw? Just let your tongue rest in the base of your mouth. Smooth your forehead if you're squinting your eyes or tensing your face. Releasing into your neck and shoulders. Letting the shoulder blades ease down the back. So take a few moments here to connect with your breath. Each inhalation, each breath in, feel it blow past the nostrils if you can breathe in through your nose. An awareness of the belly rising as you breathe in. Falling back as you breathe out. Inviting a sense of ease. Sense of release. to let go, rest, breathe. Taking a few moments here to let there be nothing else to do. Rest, breathe, release. Setting an intention for your practice for today. If it resonates with you, setting an intention to let go of that which no longer serves you. Or any other intention that resonates with you today. Maybe it's just to be grateful that you showed up to your practice. Taking another moment to rest, to breathe, to invite ease, and letting go. In your time, bringing your awareness back into the room very gently, wiggling your fingers and toes, beginning to stretch or move in any way that feels right for you, maybe having a big body yawn and stretch. Stretching your arms into one direction, your legs into the other. And if you're seated with me, finding your way onto your mat. Onto your back if you're not already there. And from here, exhaling, bringing one knee toward your chest at a time and just rolling the wrists and the ankles in a few directions, or well, I guess there's only really two directions, but doing some circles with the wrists and ankles in both directions. Letting all of that release, getting the synovial fluid moving in the joints, and then bringing one foot back to the mat and circling the opposite knee on the ceiling. So again, getting that synovial fluid moving in that joint, lubricating the joints before we ask them to do some work. So work in both directions on one side, and then an exhalation of your belly back brings the opposite knee towards the chest. And then again, doing a few circles in each direction. Just gently warming the body up, getting it moving. Letting everything else go. And still there's your breath. And then from here, placing the feet back down on the mat, exhale your belly back, and then bring your right ankle or just above your ankle onto just above your knee, so onto the thigh. And you may just, if you're really tight, you may just want to stay here. Otherwise, thinking about an opening and closing of a garden gate. So your knee becomes that gate. And as I breathe in, my belly gets bigger, so my leg can come away from me. And as I exhale, my belly gets smaller and I can bring my knee towards me. So the down leg is staying sturdy, the knees bent, the foot is placed on the mat. And we're just moving that leg up and down, opening, closing that garden gate. So from here, we're going to stay in the most open position for a breath or two. And you can stay on the mat, or if it feels right for you and it's okay for your back, You can exhale your belly back and bring both legs towards you in this position. Notice if you picked up your shoulders, try to let them stay on the mat. And again, I'm a little tight, so I am not going to be able to comfortably hold underneath this down knee without extending my arms. So that would be where a belt would come in handy. You don't need hands at all if you don't want them. And just breathing here for a moment. Letting your shoulders ease, feeling that nice stretch. Eventually exhale your belly back, slowly bring your both feet back down to the mat. Windshield wiper your knees a couple of times and then work to the opposite side. So exhale your left knee to your chest this time and then place your left ankle or just below or above your ankle onto your thigh, not the knee. Breathing there for a moment, and again, we're going to open and close that garden gate. So as I exhale, my belly gets smaller. I can bring my leg closer. As I inhale, my belly gets bigger. I can bring my leg away. So opening, closing that garden gate. Exhale to come towards you, inhale to open. And just really lubricating that joint. Noticing if you picked up the shoulders. Being with the breath there. And then eventually exhaling your belly back. Maybe you just stay on the mat. Now I'm extra tight on this side. So again, perhaps I'm placing a belt here to hold on to that down leg. Maybe I don't use my hands at all. Breathing there. Eventually, slowly release. Coming back down to the mat and windshield wiper your knees again. From here, I'm going to exhale my right knee towards my chest, and I'm going to lengthen my down leg, my left leg along. Again, noticing if I picked up those shoulders, and I can move with my breath here as well. So this is a nice, gentle traction type stretch for the hamstrings, but it can also help lengthen your spine, lengthen your back. Open up the back body. Help you bring awareness to the breath being in the belly. As adults, we usually forget how to breathe in our belly. After your next full exhale, really squeeze that knee in, squeeze all the air out, then bring both knees into the chest and lengthen your right leg along the mat this time. And that leg as if it was standing up. So again, I'm going to inhale to make my belly big, exhale, bring my belly back. And depending on how tight your legs are, you may even feel this in the quads. Big muscles in the top of the quad. Couple more breaths here. And then on this exhalation, squeeze all the air out of your belly. Really squeeze that knee into the chest. And slowly bending both knees and windshield wiper. From there, we're going to exhale our arms towards the ceiling. Place our hands on our elbows. And just draw small circles on the ceiling with our elbows. Again, just waking up the upper back and the shoulders. Working in one direction and then the other. Just waking up the body. And then from here, we're going to pause in the center. Exhale our belly back and allow our arms to float to one side in this position. So I'm not pushing or pulling on my elbows. I'm just letting the arms drape towards the side. Breathing here. On an exhalation, pause in the center and all the way to the other side. Stretching out those shoulders. One side might be tighter than the other. That's okay. Just may not go as far. No judgment here. Eventually come back to center and then allow the arms to float towards your forehead. And if you need to, and I'm cheating a little because I have my blanket behind me, if you need to, widen the arms away from the elbows, like widen the hands away from the elbows so that you can actually rest behind you. Opening up in the chest, opening up in the shoulders. Breathing here and just feeling that opening up. Eventually exhale, bring the arms back to center all the way down and let that go. In your time, roll to your right side for a breath or two. And then use your arms to bring you to a seated position. Taking a sip of water whenever you need. Now I have a double mat, so I don't tend to need to pad my knees. But if you have, if your knees are a little bit more sensitive, you might want to have a blanket that you place under the knees just to give them a little bit more support when we're on all fours. So when we were on our back there, we were doing all our base poses from our Savasana pose or horse pose. Now we're going to do all our base poses from table pose because we're coming to all fours. So from here, we'll start with some cat-cows. So if you're familiar with yoga, you can go ahead and just do head up and head down cat, moving with your breath. If you're not as familiar, you can work with me. Movement starts in your hips. And before we go, we really get our table pose nice and long and strong here. So hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Back nice and flat so I could put a tray of drinks on your back and you wouldn't spill any. And then as we exhale, the hips start to tip downwards. The belly comes in, the back comes up, the head comes down. And we come into an angry cat pose or cat pose. And then as we breathe in, the tailbone starts to look up, the back starts to come down, and the head comes up. And we move with our breath. So as I exhale, I curl into my cat or angry cat. As I inhale, my tail comes up, and I come into head cat or what's it called? Cow. Slowly working with breath. Exhale to curve and round and squeeze all the air out of your belly. Inhale to come up. A couple of nice spinal waves there. And then from here, we're actually going to come to lateral cats. We'll come back to table. And then I look at my bum and my bum looks at me and I wrap my body around the pole to come laterally. And I inhale in the center and I exhale to come to the other side. Working with that a couple of times, inhaling in the center, exhaling to the side. Again, I'm looking at my bum looks at me. I hope that I can't see it. If I can, that's okay. It means I'm really flexible. And then one more time on each side. Nice lateral movement. And if you're a seasoned yogi, we're going to go from here. We're going to come into head down cat one more time. And then we'll rest in child's pose for just a couple of breaths. So toes come together, knees come apart, sit on your heels. Now my body doesn't do that, but do you rest? And if your forehead doesn't come to the mat, you can stack your hands or fists to bring the mat to you. Have a couple of breaths here. And child's pose is the pose we just did, and that is a pose you can take anytime you need to. Okay, so from here, we're going to come into downward dog. So we start with our table pose, hands under shoulders, knees under hips. Rotate your shoulders down your back. Your elbows look forward. Really spread out your hands. Bring the weight all the way into each fingertip, not just into the wrist, because that's going to put too much pressure on the wrist joint. Okay, so really plant your fingers down, curl the toes, and use the strength in your core to lift you up. Okay, so I roll my shoulder blades down my back, I engage my belly, and on an exhale, I float up into downward dog. And maybe when I'm here, because it's likely the first dog of the day, I'm gonna just move around in my dog pose. So I might bike pedal my feet, I might shake my head no slowly, I might move my arms around, and then eventually I'm gonna settle into dog. Now, if your hamstrings are really tight, you might have really, really bent knees, and that's okay. You can invite your heels towards the mat, but don't force them to the ground, because then you could hurt yourself. Really letting the head go open in the shoulders. Breathing here. This can also be a rest pose, depending on your level of yogi abilities. In your time, slowly come back down and have a breath or two in child's pose. You can even rock a little bit in child's pose if that feels good for you. And eventually coming back. So a nice pose that also works to strengthen our core and open our shoulders and our back is dolphin pose. So dolphin pose is basically dog on our elbows. So if you're just learning dog, you might want to stay with that. But if you're comfortable and you want to just give this a try, go for it. So everything the same, except now my elbows become the base for my table. So the front of my body is a little bit closer to the mat, but I'm still in table. My knees are still under my hips. My elbows now are under my shoulders instead of my hands. And I bring my hands into prayer position. From here, I'm going to roll my shoulder blades down my back, exhale my belly back, and float up. So everything's the same as we have in dog pose. Only now I'm on my elbows. And my head might touch the ground, but I don't want to put any weight into it at all. And it's the crown of my head that's coming to the ground. Okay. This is actually the pose you would practice to prepare to do headstand. But again, you don't want any weight in your head. Okay. So maybe come down, let that go, shake that out, move around, and then try that one more time. Again, if you're very new to yoga, you may just want to stick with dog. Okay, this is probably more than enough to think about and more than enough work right now. All right. But if you'd like to give her a try, palms in prayer, elbows under shoulders, roll the shoulder blades down your back, curl your toes, exhale your belly back, float up. Dolphin. Eventually slowly release. And this time we'll actually do an extended puppy pose. So the toes stay curled and we come into child, except our arms stay up. So my forehead comes down, but my arms stay up and my toes stay curled. Extended puppy pose. Eventually let that go. Come back into table. We'll come back into downward dog. And then eventually walk your feet to your hands or your hands to your feet. Or you can step or jump forward if you prefer. If you can't comfortably reach the floor in a forward bend, you can always use your blocks. Or a piece of furniture. Or a big bottle of vinegar or something like that. Okay? If you can have a flat back, feel free to have your hands on the mat. Come up to a halfway lift, hands on your shins. Or if you were on blocks, perhaps you come to your thighs. Nice flat back here. Roll back forward, wherever that is for you. Bend your knees, engage your belly, and inhale all the way up, sweeping the arms out to the sides, all the way up to an extended Tadasana. And then to Namaste. Let that go, shake that out. And I called it extended Tadasana because it's just an extended version of Tadasana or mountain pose, which we'll do now. So mountain pose, we're gonna spread our toes. I always have to stare at my toes when I spread them. I don't know why my fingers usually spread too. Just the way my brain is wired, I guess. So I'm standing up nice and tall here. Mountain pose is our base pose for all our standing work. And so from here, my ankles are in line with my knees and my hips and my shoulders. Some people have their shoulders around here. Try to release them down your spine. Standing up nice and tall, closing your eyes if you're comfortable. And maybe try to find the center point of your feet. So maybe swaying forward, back, side to side, just to try to find that center point of the feet. So that, and if you need to leave your eyes open for this, please do. Because closing our eyes makes balancing more difficult. From here, find that center point and then release into the pose and breathe. And you might feel that as you exhale your belly back, you feel like you grow a little taller. Maybe not. Notice if you've locked your knees. Let your knees be soft. The legs are active. Breathing and releasing into the mat through the soles of the feet. In yoga, a lot of the times we're focusing on our spine moving in two directions. So freeing up, being grounded into the earth. Same is true in Tadasana. And to come into extended Tadasana from here, we use our core. So as I breathe out or breathe in, I inhale my arms all the way up towards the sky. I can gently gaze at the sky and I engage my belly. And as I engage my belly, perhaps my shoulders open a little bit more, perhaps my chest opens a little bit more. It's really easy to do a back bend in the lower spine, but you're actually bending a little bit in the upper spine when you come into this pose. Eventually coming back down, letting that go, shaking that out. From here, we'll come to standing at the top of our mat. We're going to come into warrior one. So I'm going to step, we'll try a little bit of balance work as well. So standing up nice and tall, from here, I'm going to exhale and bend my right knee towards my chest. And then very slowly and deliberately, I'm going to place it back. I'm going to let the foot look out a little bit, and I'm going to bend the front knee. So an easy warrior one. My hips are forward. My feet are forward for the most part. Back foot looks out a little bit, but there's headlights on my hip bones and they're facing forward. From here, I'm going to inhale all the way up into warrior one. Breathing here, nice and strong in the legs. And eventually releasing the arms and stepping forward. Letting that go, shaking that out. Coming to the other side, I'm going to exhale my knee towards my chest and then take that long step back, bending the front knee. Hips are forward, headlights on my hip bones again. Inhale all the way up to extended Tadasana, warrior one. So almost like extended Tadasana. So all I'm really changing from here to extended Tadasana is the legs. Breathing here. Eventually slowly release. And from here, we'll come into warrior two, and then we'll do a pose for fun. So again, I'm gonna bend my knee into my chest, take a nice long step back. This time I'm gonna open my hips. So I'll show you on the other side here. I'm gonna open my hips this time a little bit more. Okay, so the back foot wants to look completely out, but you wanna have it slightly looking in so that that knee can stay a little bit soft and you're working with a soft knee instead of a lock knee. This front knee may want to fall in, you want to keep it facing forward. From here, I'm going to inhale my arms up, and I can gaze over my front hand. Warrior two. Long and strong in the legs. Breathing here. So now my headlights on my hip bones are kind of on an angle here in a twist. And from here, I can actually come into reverse warrior or exalted warrior to gaze at my fingertips. Coming into a baby back bend, holding onto the back thigh. Eventually coming back. And then stepping that foot forward again. And then placing it down. And we'll work on the other side. So from Tadasana, a little bit of balance work, exhale, bending the knees into towards the chest. Stepping all the way back into that nice open position. Front knee is bent, it will want to fall in. Keep it facing forward. Hips are open, headlights on the hip bones are open. From here, I'm nice and open and wide, and I can gaze over that front hand. Watch that you're keeping the back knee a little bit soft. Breathing here. In your time, coming to exalted warrior by flipping the palm in the front and slowly coming into a gentle back bend, gazing at that top hand. Breathing here. Slowly coming out. Releasing the arms and using your balance, your core, to bring that knee up. And then back down into Tadasana. And letting that go, shaking that out, moving around, taking a sip of water. From here, we'll just do a few stretches for the shoulders. So I'm going to give myself a big hug with one arm on top. I'm going to let my elbows sit inside each other. And if it's comfortable, I'll bring my palms towards one another. If I can turn them. If not, this could be your eagle arms, and that's totally fine. Listen to your body. Not only does this pose depend on genetics, flexibility, it also depends on, well, genetics influence the flexibility as well as your limb length. So depending on how long your arms are will depend on how far you go in this pose. If you're familiar with full eagle and you want to add the legs, please feel free. Otherwise, just eventually opening up the arms, hugging the other way, and stretching out the shoulders on the other side. Breathing there. Into Tadasana with the legs. Feeling that nice openness across the back. The upper back nice and long in your spine. Eventually opening up, letting that go, shaking that out. And for those of you who aren't familiar with the legs, let's give that a try. So if you've done the legs already, perhaps do them with us one more time and see if you can bind this time. So to come into eagle legs, I want to come into chair pose first. So everything the same as Tadasana, mountain pose, and all I'm doing is sitting. Okay, so in chair pose, I sit. So when I sit, I can start to shift the weight onto one leg. And then I can cross it completely over the other. So there's no space between the knees. Okay? So as I cross, there's no space between the knees. And if my legs are long enough, again, this is where limb length comes in, I can actually bind. So you can see that I'm hooking my foot behind that leg. All right. So let's come back to Tadasana. Start to sit in our chair. And when we sit in our chair, we stick our bum out so that we're not putting too much weight on the knees. Okay, so sticking out your bum and then crossing one leg completely over the other as I fall over. And if you're going to need a prop like the wall, make sure your standing leg is the one that's closest to the wall. So crossing one leg completely over the other, binding behind if you can. Now, if you're super balanced here and this feels easy, whatever leg is on top, the opposite arm is on top. So I've got my right leg on top, so my left arm will come on top. And you're opposite me. Otherwise, I'm just staying with the legs to try and check it out. And if balancing is really difficult, you can always put your back on the wall to try this and just to see what it feels like. So try one side, let it go, shake it out, and try the other. And maybe you're just wobbling. When we just stand and try to balance and we wobble, we actually engage our other muscles, our proprioception muscles. And that actually helps us to get stronger as well. So if my left leg is on top, my right arm is on top, give a hug. Same as the eagle arms we did, but with Tadasana legs. And if you look at me and I fall over, you might fall over too. So gaze at something that doesn't move. Keep rolling your shoulder blades down your back. And unlike me, perhaps come out with grace. Eventually let that go and shake that out. And just for fun, we'll do one more balancing pose. So you're going to grab your block, have it with you. Come to Tadasana at the top of your mat. Exhale, bending your left knee towards your chest, stepping it back. Not as far as you did before, unless you're going to hop the foot up. Okay? So everything the same for Warrior Two, but now we're going to take that into Half Moon. So from here, I'm going to maybe take a step forward a little bit because I don't want as far to go. I'm going to get nice and long, and I'm going to find my block. And it's going to be above my foot a little bit. Roll that shoulder blade down my back. Pick a spot to stare at on the floor that doesn't move. I'm going to exhale my belly back and bend my back leg, lengthen it straight back, and maybe even open up my arm to the top. Now I'm in Half Moon. Breathing here. Maybe you're using furniture instead or on the wall. Eventually bending to come back down into Warrior Two, and then release, bending that knee again towards the chest, and stepping down. So you can do this against a wall instead, if you prefer. It's still nice to have the block or prop though. So if you're going to use the wall, you can lean right on the wall. Okay? And this is sometimes really nice to do just to get the extra low back stretch that comes from Half Moon. Straighten out the wall for you. So I'm going to come into Tadasana close to the wall. a little bit closer to my block. I'm going to bend my right knee towards my chest and open back up. Okay. So now I'm in warrior two, but if I sneak back a little bit, I'm actually in warrior two on the wall. I don't want to fall back into the wall, so I don't want to be away from the wall so much that I'm like this, that I'm leaning into the wall. I want to actually be right against it. Okay, so my knee is bent, my buttocks are on the wall. I'm going to step that foot up a little bit so I don't have as far to go. And everything the same, warrior two, right? Nice and long and tall and fine. Reaching to get long to come down to that block. Exhale your belly back, bend your back leg, lengthen it straight back, lengthen the other arm up. And here it's easier to gaze at the top hand because you have that extra support behind you. But changing your gaze is usually the hardest part of that pose. Because when you come to half moon and you change your gaze, that's when you might wobble and fall, right? Because when we balance, it's easiest to balance when we have a fixed spot that we're staring at that doesn't move. Eventually let that go and shake that out. Bring your blocks with you or your furniture, maybe you have a chair or something. To release from that, we're going to come into Tadasana. Take our feet nice and wide. Slightly pigeon toe our feet, so slightly turn them in. Get nice and long and tall in our spine. Bending the knees, rotating the thighs open like a book opening. Exhale the belly back, tip from the hips, and find those blocks. Okay, so I've got a nice flat back here. And if I can maintain that flat back and come down without the blocks, that's okay too. But keep the hands on the mat. Okay. Breathing here, still my thighs are rotating out, my knees are still soft, my head is let go. When you go to come up, do so slowly. Toe heel your feet in front way. Bend your knees, engage your belly, inhale all the way up. Extend it to Tadasana and Namaste. Let that go, shake that out. And then from here, we'll come to a seat. Again, maybe you have a block handy that you're going to sit on. Maybe you have a belt handy if you need it. Maybe a cushion or blankets to sit on if you need as well. So from here, we'll just come into a very easy twist, very open twist. So I'm going to step my feet, my knees towards my chest, step my feet together, and then I'm going to let my knees fall out. Now, I'm really tight today, so I'm going to grab my blocks and just place them under my knees, just to give myself a little bit more support. Okay, so now I'm in Baddha Konasana, or bound angle pose, or cobbler's pose. I'm sitting up nice and tall. And to do my nice open twist, I'm going to exhale my belly back, spiral up my spine, and gently look over my right shoulder, keeping my fingertips on the mat behind me. Shoulder blades roll down my back. And if it's okay for my neck, I'm going to gaze over my right shoulder. From here, I'll slowly undo my spine. Again, sitting up nice and tall. Eventually spiraling up the spine with an exhalation the other way, placing my hand behind me, rotating that shoulder blade down my back. And if it's okay for my neck, gazing over my left shoulder. Eventually slowly release. And eventually close the legs like a book. Reach the legs out and shake them. And we'll come back down onto the back. So from here, roll down nice and slowly with your knees bent. Exhale, bringing both knees towards your chest and just having a rock, head, neck, shoulders. Everything comes with you. Slowly release. Bring your arms into a T position. Or if you don't have room, you can come to cactus arms. From here, we're going to keep slowly windshield wipering our knees. And then eventually we're going to let our knees fall to one side. So eventually I'll let my knees fall to the left and I'll gaze over my right shoulder as long as it's okay for my neck and my back. There's my breath. And then in your time, gently bringing your head back to center. The knees come back to center and we can windshield wiper a couple more times. And then eventually fall to the right side. If it's okay for the neck, gazing to the left or the opposite side of the legs. Still, there's your breath. Eventually bringing the head back, the legs back. Again, maybe a couple more windshield wipers. It might be nice to bring your knees to your chest and have a rock. And move or stretch in any way that you need to prepare for Shavasana. If you have a blanket, you might want to cover up. If you have socks, you might want to put them on. Again, your palms are going to be face up away from you comfortably. If it's okay for your back, your legs can be nice and long. If it feels better, you can always bend your knees and let them rest together. Or place some props under your legs. As always, you can also choose to sit with me. Taking a few moments to really settle into your mat again. Coming into your breath. Inhaling to expand your whole body from the tips of your toes to the top of your head. And as you exhale, feel everything release and let go. Maybe even letting it out with a sigh. Making noise. Taking a couple of breaths this way. Inhale to expand everything in your body. Every cell expands with fresh oxygen. And as you exhale, let it all go. Perhaps coming back to that intention that you set for yourself at the beginning of your class. What can you let go of that no longer serves you? Taking your time here to reap the benefits of your practice as you rest and breathe for a little while longer. Inhaling to expand. Exhaling to release. Being with each breath in each moment. Letting it be nothing else. Just this breath. just this moment. Resting. Breathing. Releasing. Letting go. Mind wanders, invite it back to your breath. Back to your belly. Awareness of your belly rising as you breathe in and falling back as you breathe out. Noticing if you've started holding tension anywhere. Trying to send the breath there to release that tension. Letting your thoughts come and go. Watching the breath. Slow in, slow out. Feeling the body, filling the belly with fresh air. And releasing anything that's holding your body. Just this. Just this moment. Just this breath. An invitation to stay in Shavasana as long as it feels right for you. Resting. Breathing. Releasing. If you wish, close your practice with us. Actually inviting a deeper breath. Inviting your body to begin slow, gentle movements, like wiggling your fingers and your toes. Eventually rolling to your right side for a few breaths. Slowly and gently using your arms to bring you to a seated position. A couple of breaths together. Bringing your hands into Namaste. Keeping your eyes gently closed. Inhale and sweep your arms overhead, gathering everything back into the center of your chest with your hands back in Namaste. Taking another breath, inhale as you sweep the arms up overhead. Exhale, bringing your hands to your chest. Take one more breath together. When you're ready, inhale, sweeping the arms up overhead. Exhale, bringing your hands into namaste. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed your practice today. The soul or light or divine in me is honoring the soul or light or divine. Namaste. Thank you very much, everyone. If you have any questions, please feel free to type in the chat. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Bye-bye.